You're listening to Best Forevers, a podcast for kindred spirits, a podcast that encourages you to love more on your friends and to further consider the issues that plague friendships. I'm Alysa Lucas, and y'all, it is March Madness. I'm talking madness, right? So it only seems appropriate that I would finally bring out Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire to talk about, since it is the sportiest book that exists in the Harry Potter series. That was a stretch. But friends, we are here today to talk about the fourth book in the Harry Potter series, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. And I am so excited. Special guest star, Claire is back. It's been 2 years and she's here. Claire, say hello to your fans.
Hello, coming to you live from San Marcos, Texas.
Well, that's terrible, but still, she's here.
I'm here in spirit. If not in Michigan, I'm here.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, you're in a different state and you're doing like graduate school. And y'all, she's going for her PhD. She's a little smarty pants. But she's been busy. I mean, not only with graduate school, but then there's like the whole pandemic and the what have you, and gestures vaguely around everything going.
The chaos of the universe.
The chaos of the universe. And so it's been a good 2 years since we've recorded something. So it feels like riding a bicycle.
It does. It feels good, though. My legs are going to be a little sore by the end, but it's okay. We had a good ride.
My legs are going to be sore for not moving because I've sat in this chair all day. That's my issue. But But I'm so excited that Claire is back, and off mic we were just talking about before we hit record of all the content we can come together to do, because we've missed it. We've missed talking to each other and missed doing the book stuff, because we haven't done a book club episode in so long. Like, I think the last episode we did was Fatalities Season 2.
Yeah. Eek.
Yeah. Claire,
Ooh,
what's your deal?
Minute.
What's your deal? Are you mad at me? What did I do?
No, I missed you, friend. I missed you so much. We were just storing it all up until we could be reunited again.
And then we could talk about, as Claire is one of the sportiest people I know, to talk about. That is a sarcasm.
Deep joke, friends.
She likes hockey. A joke. She likes hockey.
I don't do hockey. I watch hockey.
Yeah, she likes it. Whereas, I don't play sports, but I love sports. So, but this is probably one of the reasons why I like Goblet of Fire, is because it does focus on a lot of different sports, which we'll get into. So, yes, we are here to talk about the fourth book of the Harry Potter series. So, of course, the first question I have for you, Claire, is how did you come to read the series of Harry Potter? Were you like the age that people actually were supposed to be when they read these books?
I was too young. So I have a funny story with it. Well, because my mom made me wait until they were all out until I could start reading them. She's like, you have to she's like, you got to binge them. I was like, but
okay.
She's like, you had to wait years between books. My friends were all reading them in like third grade, fourth grade. I had to wait until fifth grade for book 7 to come out. And then I could just read them all in one go. And honestly, she was right. I was a binge reader. She knew her child. Yeah. I would just devour them.
But here's
I think I read Order of the Phoenix in one day.
Oh yeah, that was my favorite. Well, we'll see, because I haven't reread it in such a long time, and that'll be the next book in the series that I'll be covering on the podcast. But I think it's interesting where like all your friends might have been reading it and you're like, my mom won't let me.
It wasn't for like a content reason. It was like, you just need to let them all be out and then you can read them all at once. And I was like, but
you're like,
it was worth it. It was fine.
And I loved how you said you were in the 5th grade when waiting for the 7th book to come out. I was in my PhD program at Penn State. I went, Barnes & Noble was a 20-minute drive from where I lived. I went, got McDonald's breakfast, picked up my book, came back, and I read the whole thing in my room the whole day, and I didn't come out. I had a bathroom. The bathroom was inside my room, but like at a certain point I became hungry, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to get up and leave. So I had like a Gatorade and like a granola bar in my backpack.
Powering through, we're like, we got our rations. We're gonna read this book in one sitting.
Not even good rations. Like, get it together. You need better snacks than that if you're gonna read. So I know you love to read, and obviously your mom really knew her child and was like, pull it together and binge it at once.
My mom read them all. Mm-hmm. So she read them before me. Like, she started reading them when they came out in the 90s and stuff, and she knew I'd love it. But I also think selfishly she wanted to read Deathly Hallows herself first before I could get my hands on the copy. Like, she was going to have it on release day. I had to wait to read all of that.
That just seems rude. But like
she said, I'm buying the book.
You do read a lot though, right? You've always read a lot. Mm-hmm. So how does Harry Potter fit into your world of books? Meaning, like, is it a series you love, or is that not, you enjoyed it because of what it was, or does it not fit into your genre? Like, tell me a little bit about you, a reader, and how this series fits into sort of your, your bookshelf of love.
I always say Harry Potter is like as far into fantasy as I can go. Mm-hmm. I am not a fantasy reader. It's because I can't picture things in my head. So like world building is really hard for me to get into because they're like, as fantasy books are so heavy on plot and setting.
Yeah.
And like the visuals of the world. I'm like, I can't imagine what it looks like. So Harry Potter is like set in our world.
Yes.
So I always loved it. I have a deep nostalgia for it. Like that was something I loved as a kid. Like I loved the movies. I loved the books. Like I went to Harry Potter World when I was a kid. Like that was cute. Like I was always deeply in love with it. And my friends were all nerds. So we all loved Harry Potter. Like that was just kind of like, I remember a Harry Potter musical, like the Darren Criss, like YouTube one. Oh man, that was good. Like we were obsessed with that. It was great. So yeah, it has a soft place in my heart for sure.
So who would you say is like your favorite character that you love the most?
I love Sirius Black. I was always obsessed with the Marauders era, and she never did anything with the Marauders. So I was really sad about that. But apparently they're making a series in that era, but it's about Snape. And I was like, how dare you disrespect James and Lily like this?
But still, I think it'd be interesting to see what his deal is, because I don't know that I fully understand what Snape's whole deal is. And so maybe I've only read the later books like once. So maybe I've missed some things. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'll learn, like after Order of the Phoenix, I've only read each book once and maybe seen each movie once. So like we'll be in like new territory. So, but part of me is like, I just need to know more about what his deal is. But I do think like the best friends and how, like the whole thing with Lupin being a werewolf and like how the friends dealt with that. Like I'm all about that. Like I
loved it.
Let's get into, and you know how much I love friendship among men. Like I don't think we spend enough time and attention on them. And so partially why I like Harry Potter is because of the Ron-Harry relationship. I also like that with Hermione there, at least with Harry, it's platonic, but like to see some of these other male friendships, I think would be really cool. So then, okay, so you like Sirius Black. I think he's a good character as well. And this might not be the book we're doing because Claire is pinch hitting today because the guest is having a baby. Not Claire, other guest.
No, not me. Don't freak my mom out, please.
Yeah, sorry, Claire's mom. So we were originally going to do Deathly Hallows. But what is your favorite book in the series?
I love Prisoner of Azkaban, and I also love Order of the Phoenix. Those are my two favorites.
Yes.
Prisoner of Azkaban is also my favorite of the movies. I think it was the most well adapted of the movies.
Yes. Yep.
And it played with like the dark themes for the first time. I think it was done really well. So I have a soft place for those two books because I love the angst of 5 and I just love the plot of 3.
I'm sort of 3 through 5. I like Prisoner of Azkaban. I really like Goblet of Fire, and I know that's like maybe a hot take. And we'll talk about why. But I feel like now, okay, Prisoner of Azkaban started with like the dark themes. Goblet of Fire brings that to life essentially. And then it's like nothing will ever be the same after this book. Like legitimately. Like it's not just like we're just saying that. Like no, Lord Voldemort is back. So like and then I love the angsty stages of all of them, and like Goblet of Fire, you have the first like real conflict between Ron and Harry. You have the first sort of like I kind of like a girl. Like they have to
Yes.
go to like their school dance. And I just love the conversation among like Ron and Harry. How are you supposed to ask them out? They're always in groups. I'm like, classic.
I did laugh at that.
Yeah.
It was great.
I do like some of that, like, it's sort of like the middle school, early high school years, essentially. And I think, like, that generally, at least in my era, didn't get as much attention. Maybe Babysitter's Club, but, like, Sweet Valley High, Nancy Drew, they're all in high school. So, like, you don't get, like, the angsty, like, I think, like, 8th grade, the movie, you know, like, I want more of that era because I think that is really hard for kids or young people.
Yeah.
And so I like to see how friendship just tries to survive during that, you know? And so that's what we're going to do today. But first, maybe the most important question, although I'm pretty sure I know the answer. What is your Hogwarts house, Claire?
I am a Hufflepuff, which surprises some people, but the people that really know me, it doesn't surprise them at all.
I'm not surprised at all. I would have been like Hufflepuff. Like, and then I might say that after that, you might have some Ravenclaw.
I would say I'm a Ravenpuff.
Yes.
We'll just do like the little couple name.
Huffleclaw, Ravenpuff. I'm more of a Huffleclaw. And here's the thing, like, what's your mother's name?
Sarah.
Sarah, hi. I'm Alysa. I know I'm not Claire's mom. You are her mom. I'm like an older sister. A second mom, perhaps. But I feel like you could be my child. Like, I'm like, you are definitely a Huffleclaw. Like, come on, Claire. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
I would have been slightly surprised if you're like Gryffindor, but I guess it's not beyond all means. But I'm like, introverted, loves books. Okay, a Huffle, Ravenclaw person, never Slytherin. And here's what's interesting. You are the 4th guest that I've had. The 1st and the 4th were Hufflepuff, and the 2nd and 3rd were both Slytherin. And so...
Listen, Slytherin Hufflepuff friendships are excellent because... Someone messes with us, they're like, I will kill you. You don't touch them. They are sunshine. You don't do it.
When I was in elementary school, there were I think 3rd grade, and some girl was, well, I know who, but I'm just not going to name names on the podcast. But I was playing like tag without quote unquote my friends, and apparently they asked who was it, and I like was running because it's tag, y'all. I'm not trying to get tagged to it. And so I said who it was, and apparently that did not suffice. And so they were mad at me and cordoned me up against the building. And these 2 giant 5th graders came in and were like, you will not touch her. And that's exactly what I think of. My Slytherin girls from 5th grade, what's up?
I got you. Those baddies had your back. You're good.
I was like, feel free. Yeah, you want to fight me? You have to get through them. They were like, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but they were definitely my Crab and Goyle because like I just mean like size difference in height from 3rd to 5th grade was huge. Yeah. So I was like, go ahead, feel free. But I'll be really interested with the 3 final guests. Like, I kind of have my friend who's having the baby. I feel like I know where her house is already, and it's in line with not us, with the other guests. But I'll be interested the other 2. Will I have any Ravenclaw or Gryffindor friends that come on the podcast to talk about Harry Potter? I think that would be interesting. Or is it just like, I'm a Hufflepuff and all my friends are either Hufflepuff or Slytherin? I like it. So you ready?
The most like basic personality test in the world. Like one of these 4 categories. Okay, and these 2 kind of go together. It's like an introvert extrovert balance situation, I guess.
Well, and the thing is, like, the Ravenclaws get 0 play in any of these books.
Luna Lovegood is a Ravenclaw.
And isn't Cho Chang or is she Hufflepuff? I think
she's also a Ravenclaw, yeah.
They're like the only ones. But like, I feel like this series would be interesting if it wasn't just from the Gryffindor point of view, right? Like, so we had the Cedric Diggory book, right? We had the Luna Lovegood book, right? We had, okay, fine, Draco Malfoy book. Or actually...
The internet wants it. The internet thirsts for Draco Malfoy, so...
I mean, Tom Felton.
I've ended up on Draco Malfoy TikTok.
Oh my God. Is this Tom Felton or just generally like people who are really into Slytherin?
People are really into Draco Hermione because they're like enemies to lovers. I'm like, he calls her slurs. Let's not do that.
That's like, no. Although if Draco didn't have such a terrible dad, maybe he'd be a little bit better.
What can you do?
What can you do? SF, dive into Goblet of Fire. Are you ready?
Ooh,
okay.
I am.
First things first, author's trash.
Oh, absolutely. This is death of the author. She is no part of this anymore. The fans own it. This is not hers. We claim no energy.
She will not be named. We support the community, not the transphobic author. So just wanted to remind everyone of that. But okay, so Claire, buckle in because I basically write recaps right after I get done reading, and it's just based on memory and me just being like, how would I talk about this? And this is the first time that it is so long because each book gets a little bit more complicated. I'm like, but I can't leave that part out. I can't leave that part out. So Claire needs to buckle in. Listeners need to buckle in. So here we go.
Too long to be an elevator pitch, but here we go.
It's like 17 elevator pitches. Here we go. So Goblet of Fire is the book that changes everything. And it starts with being the most different book than what we've read so far. So to me, and I do need to read 5, 6, and 7 again, but this book doesn't follow necessarily the same procedure as the previous 3. So we learn quickly, first off, we're not even with the Dursleys. We start with that little snake-like thing that is Lord Voldemort. And we've learned that he offed his family and they have some land with a house and things like that. And someone is still caretaking for that land. So even though he isn't strong enough to be his own human being or whatever, Wormtail, who was Scabbers in book 3, that person is there with Lord Voldemort and Nagini, his snake, because you're not going anywhere without him. Or her. I'm not really sure. Them.
I think it's a her. Yeah.
We'll just go with them. We're not sure. And he's starting some shiz. He kills the caretaker, Frank Bryce, who is just what's happening? And then we also learn that Bertha Jorkins, who works for the Ministry, is missing. Come to find out later, Lord Voldemort uses her to get information to help him. And then he just gets rid of her. And by rid of her, she's no longer with us. So already it's come on. It's
starting hot.
It's starting hot. And it's for me, can't this week, snake loser, just go away. Right? So apparently you can't. So
we can't squash him like a slug, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, he's surrounded by, when celebrities make really bad decisions, and it's probably because they're surrounded by bad influences. Yeah. It's the same idea, only because he doesn't have full influence on others yet, but he's sort of the bad apple too, right? But you want to remember all that because that all becomes important. So we do go back to the Dursleys, but we're not there very long because the Weasleys score some tickets to the World Cup of Quidditch, which I love because it reminds me of soccer, which is very British, and it's a very exciting event. And Arthur Weasley gets tickets from working for the Ministry, and so they invite Harry, and I love it because Molly sends this note to the Dursleys about we're coming to get them. They put $90 of stamps on one envelope. It's out of control.
Which is going to get Uncle Vernon just riled up.
Oh, he was totally riled up for the 2 pages he was there. So basically Harry gets to leave that abuse behind, and he gets to go to the most exciting sporting event in the wizardry world. And here's the thing, it's super exciting. He gets to take a port key to get there. And you're probably what does that mean? Well, those of you who know Harry Potter know what's up. It's an object, you touch it, and it takes you to a predetermined location, and this is where the couple take place. And so on the way there, they meet Edward Cullen / Cedric Diggory, which is played by the Batman. What's his name? Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson.
Oh my God, I was just thinking all the characters he ever played. Sparkly vampire. Okay. So he's a Hufflepuff. And so we meet him because they're taking the same port key. We then see that, like Snoopy, I always loved Snoopy because he had that little house that he laid on top of. But like the little times that he went in, it was like a mansion on the inside. And I always thought that was the coolest. And that's exactly what happened with their tent. So it looks like there's like, you know, 2 of us are probably not even going to fit in this, but there's like 7 of us. So you walk in, and it's like a 3-bedroom apartment. You're like, okay. So that's very exciting. And then they go to the cup and they see the greatest seeker in the world, Victor Krum from Bulgaria. And if that wasn't exciting enough, Claire, are you still with me? Because this is like a 20-minute recap. The dark mark was conjured, which means something.
We conjured it? Yeah.
Yeah, conjured it. Like someone put a little wand up to their little tattoo of the Death Eater or whatever, and the mark comes out being like,
we killed a muggle.
Voldemort is doing stuff. Right? So
we're doing hate crimes. It's bad.
It's bad. So that's the thing is, it's not really clear what's going on, but it's his call to sort of his comrades. But who sent the mark? What does it mean? And, you know, it's like, hey, this is Harry Potter. Just go to Hogwarts and you'll be fine.
Of course. Hogwarts is the safest place in the world until it's not.
Well, here's the thing. It's not, though. They're like...
I know.
It's like the unsafest place for him to be. Like, just why don't you get homeschooled at the Burrow, right? Like, hang out with Molly Weasley, right? Like, amazing. That would be what I would want to do. Fabulous. So here's the thing. Hashtag awkward is probably the unsafest year Harry is going to have up to this point because they come back to school and again, the sportiest Harry Potter book of all time, they've learned that it's the 75th Triwizard Tournament will take place. And what that means is 3 schools come together, 1 champion from Hogwarts, 1 champion from another school, and 1 champion from a third school. They will participate in 3 different tasks throughout the year, right? So they will do that, and whoever wins becomes... a hero. I don't know.
Champion for their school.
Shiro. They get 1,000 galleons, or what is that? Like $1,000 bucks?
Galleons?
I don't know.
Like the most expensive coin, the one that's worth the most, they get 1,000 of those.
Yeah, whatever that is.
I'm sure someone's done a conversion to pounds and like dollars. I'm not.
As I'm about to Google it, and I'm like, wait, no, we're recording. So basically, you have to be 17 to get into, you drop your name in the Goblet of Fire, right? It's like a little thing with fire coming out of it, and you drop your name in it. But if you're under the age of 17, it's like no go. And this is much to the dismay of everyone, especially the Weasley twins, who badly want to be part of the tournament. So then the Goblet of Fire spits out who the champions are going to be. So, Cedric Diggory will represent Hogwarts, and so it's a good thing we met him at the start of this book.
Excellent.
Victor Krum will represent Darmstrang School, and so it's a good thing we met him too. And then Fleur is from the Beauxbatons School, I think I'm saying that correctly, which feels like French-ish.
It is.
Yes, okay. And then, wait a gosh darn moment, Harry Potter will be the 4th champion, and... I'm sure you're made of questions. First off, there's only one...
Who's Harry?
Yeah. Who's Harry and why is he in the cup? Anyway, there's only 1 champion from each school. And you have to be 17. And so Harry is not 17. He's 14. He swears he didn't put his name into the Goblet of Fire. And that is how the champions are decided. And no one believes him except for Sirius, who's out living his best dog life because he turns into a dog.
He had to cut his tropical vacation short because his godson got into trouble again. So There you go.
And so the only way he can get around is being the dog version of him, Snuffers or whatever, the Snuffles or whatever the dumb name they give him. Well, no, but then when they talk about him, they call him Snuffles.
Oh, true. Something weirdly British. Okay.
Yeah. And then Hermione believes, and Dumbledore believes him, but of course he has to ask first. So the entire year is dedicated to the tournament, and there are the 3 magical contests to compete before they can win. But why is Harry in the tournament? Because the tournament cup ends up being a port key that takes him and Cedric to a cemetery where Harry's blood will be used to assist in bringing back Lord Voldemort. So it's been manipulated from the beginning. So what else is going on here? Because I couldn't fit all this into the recap that's already 20 minutes. So the first thing is we have a new defense against a dark arts teacher. Big surprise. It's Mad-Eye Moody, who is an Auror. He is sort of like Dog the Bounty Hunter for wizards. He puts everyone...
Spoiler alert, I've been watching Dog the Bounty Hunter as like a weird comfort escape show.
I used to watch it every morning from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. when I would get ready for work. Like, that show is my jam. And I feel real bad because Beth, his wife on the show, she has since passed.
Yeah.
Makes me sad.
So sad.
So... basically, though, it's not actually Mad-Eye Moody. We learned that Barty Crouch, who is a loyal Death Eater, a loyal comrade to Lord Voldemort, has been drinking that polyjuice, and so he looks like Mad-Eye Moody. Mad-Eye Moody is actually in a trunk somewhere else, and so he's doing whatever he can to be sure that Harry follows the things and gets to the cemetery. I'm pretty sure you don't have to do the whole tournament to do that. Like, what if he was just walking across, like, Hogwarts campus and touched something and off he goes? Seems easy. Like, I don't understand why they have to do all this manipulating. Like, just turn anything
Gotta keep it spicy. I mean, Lord Voldemort's all about the aesthetic anyway. He's a big, you know what I mean? Like, he's in this for, like, the optics of it. So, like, we gotta make it complicated.
Yeah, it's like...
Also, he's been bored for, what, 15 years
13,
now? He's been, like...
Yeah, 14 years. Yeah, however long Harry's been alive.
He's been bored. So he needs something to keep him going.
That's fair. We also learn about... I don't even know if I'm saying this right. The pensive...
Yeah, I think that's right. Pensive. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a magical item where I always think looks really cool in the movies where Dumbledore pulls out a thought or a memory out of his brain and puts it into this magical item where it doesn't have to be all up in there. You don't have to have everything in your head. You can go to this pensive and sort of like pick out the things. I feel like a lot of people would benefit from having
Mine
one.
would have folders. Okay, here's like here's the school stuff and here's childhood memories and here's
it's like a filing cabinet, and it's not just like one cabinet. You walk into a room of files like that. So basically, we learn about this because Harry learns about some things in the past. Like, it's a good way to go back to things that Harry has not seen so that he can learn and the readers can learn more. So he learns about sort of Barty Crouch and his dad and all this kind of stuff and learning a little bit more about what's happening. We also meet Rita Skeeter, the worst woman in the wizardry. No, I take that back. Umbridge is in the next book. But
Bellatrix Lestrange is also up there.
Yeah. But Rita Skeeter is I don't even want to say that. She's supposed to be a journalist. But I feel like she's a terribly nosy woman who contributes to like the fake news of the wizard's world. Like, she legit makes things up. Like, she has a pen that writes and just like
quick quotes.
Yeah, and it just takes all the information, twists it around, and it's all bullshit and it's ridiculous. So there's that.
Fluffy. It's a fluffer of a pen. Just like adds little details and lies also.
Just a bunch of lies. And then we already mentioned the dance. So they have to have their dress robes and they have their first school dance and it's total cringe. And then, of course, which seems a little disconnected, I think, at times, is SPEW, which is, I don't even remember what it stands for, except like Hermione wants to help the house elves. Like, they don't get paid and she thinks that that's wrong. But like the elves are like, we're fine. And so that can create some tension among some friends, right? Dobby, Winky, all of them. Those are the only two I know.
Yeah, that was a tough plot for me to read in light of the She Who Will Not Be Named stuff. I'm like, we're advocating for groups that we're not a part of. I don't know. Oh no.
Or also doing it without like without like talking to them and understanding what their actual issues are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So y'all, if you're still with us, like that was an intense review, right? Like seriously, like it was a lot because
we didn't even talk about the individual tasks. Like you just hit like the character stuff.
Yeah, we'll get to the tasks. There's some stuff in there. So let's go ahead and start our discussion with, obviously, the goal here is talk about Harry Potter in terms of friendship. And that can mean, well, obviously talk about the core friendship, but there's other things going on as well. And I feel like this book brings about a new friendship. So what do you think? How would you describe how the tournament brings people together, I guess?
I think of it as like world expansion. This book is the first time we like expand the world beyond the UK. So it's like international relations is what we're doing in this book. And I think it's like opportunities to like, it's setting up like potential allyships because Dumbledore knows what's up. He knows, who is rising. This is an opportunity for people of Harry's age group to connect with each other potentially. Like, yes, like, he knows there's a war coming. Like that's his motive, but like, the kids are like, oh, wow, there's people in other countries that do magic too. Like, love it.
It's like going on study abroad, but like for Hogwarts, it's like they all come to them. And so we have
cultural exchange.
Yeah, cultural exchange, right? And so you have the school from Bulgaria and then you have the French school. And so I'm sure there are plenty other schools out there. And so we meet them early on in Hogwarts. Like the first day they're there, like everyone comes back to school because we learn about the tournament. And like no one knows about it except everyone who is at the World Cup, except for the kids at Hogwarts. Everyone knows what's happening. And I'm like, wait.
You'll know what happens when you get back to school. Dumbledore just wants to find out when you get to school. Like everyone keeps hinting at things. Like, oh, just tell us.
Well, also, all that talk, no wonder it got manipulated.
Too many people had their hands in this.
And they were blaming that one lady. What's her name?
Bertha Jorgens?
Yeah, they're all blaming her. I'm like, y'all were talking about it too. She was like threatened for the information. It's a little bit different.
She was tortured.
Yeah, so it's like everyone needs to calm down. So I do think it's cool to see like other, like, who's the Dumbledore of other schools? Although I still think like Dumbledore is just like unique and special in the wizarding world. But I just love like the different personalities or reflections of the school. So the Bulgarian school arrives in basically like a ship that goes underwater. Looks like a pirate ship. And then the French school, they come like, is it unicorns? I don't even remember.
I think it's is it a flying carriage?
Yeah, it's like a carriage comes flying in. Like they pull all the stops. And so Claire and I will be talking about the movie and an Alysa Watches TV, which will go on Patreon. And I will probably spend about 5 minutes talking about the introduction of the schools because I have a lot of thoughts and how they translated it to screen. So,
I don't remember, honestly. 4 is like one of my least revisited ones. So like I don't remember a ton of like the movie either.
Yeah. Well, see,
I remember now.
I really liked this one because I did like, I think obviously I wasn't the target audience, right? I'm like in my 20s reading this, and going, we've already done this. He goes to the Dursleys, then he tries to break out, then he has a hard time getting to Hogwarts, and then this happens, and then like each book, they might add in something different, like the Marauders map or like the invisibility cloak, but I'm just like, I just like how it's like completely different. And I think it does provide a transition that is needed to move into sort of the angsty emo book that comes up next.
Absolutely.
And that's a light way to say the shit goes down.
Yeah.
But I also think what's interesting with this sort of premise of this tournament is that Harry's name is put in, but Cedric Diggory, right, the sparkly vampire that is also Batman. So yeah, it's basically like he is a Hogwarts member. So the idea is that you support, it's like the Olympics, right? You support the US, you support Hogwarts, whatever it is. But then you have this 4th champion, a second one from the same school. And we'll get into it more in how like everyone hates Harry for it, even though this is a ploy to get him to Lord Voldemort, which no one can figure out until it after it happens, and Harry tells him, hey, guess what happened?
Guess what? Someone tried to kill me again.
Voldemort, I am not safe here. I am never, it doesn't matter how many defense against the dark art teachers you have. It doesn't matter if Dumbledore's there. It doesn't matter about Hagrid. He's not safe. Okay, no. He is not safe. And sometimes you're just like, do you think at a certain point people are just like, give him up? Because it's like,
the boy who lived, no longer.
I mean, I love Harry Potter, but I can imagine it's just like how many people have been harmed and endangered to protect one person that this Voldemort wants. And I think at a certain point, like, it's also exhausting for Harry. Like,
yeah, I was going to say, this is the first book it starts to weigh on him. Like, that weight of him always being in danger. Like, it's kind of, he's always been aware of it, but like this one, he's really like, people don't believe me. And like, what is the price of my friendship at this point? I put my friends in danger. Like, I'm constantly being like,
and so I don't mean like, let's off Harry. Like, Claire said it much more eloquently than I did. Like, he's starting to recognize that he's not safe, which means the people he loves are not safe. And so it's riskier and riskier every book that we get. And so one person that doesn't seem to be put off by it, though, is Cedric Diggory. So I do think that they have an interesting relationship in this book. So it's sort of like they meet at the World Cup, and like, of course, Cedric is just very put together. He's
the golden boy.
He's the golden boy. He would be quarterback of the football team, but people like him. He's nice because he's the Hufflepuff, right?
Harry and him have beef from the beginning because Hufflepuff beat Gryffindor in Quidditch last year. And Cedric was the one that led the team to victory and all that jazz. So golden boy.
Sports. Told you.
Sports ball. So
it starts with that. And, like, you know, even Harry falls doing the port key where Cedric's like, this was easy, you know? But like, I think there's initial, like, what's going on here? And they do seem to question each other. So because it's Harry's being manipulated to get to Voldemort, he is given information about the first task, which is to get past one of 4 dragons, right? And, of course, Harry pulls the worst dragon. And so he realizes that, you know, Crumb is going to know, Fleur's going to know. The only person doesn't know is Cedric. So he feels like it's absolutely critical for him to share this information. I think at first Cedric's like, why are you telling me? But then Cedric helps him with the second task, which is to go underwater and save someone that they love from the mer people, right? So, like, I think by the end, they are running through. See, I told you we get to the task. The third task is a maze, right? And so they both reach the cup at the same time. And Harry's like, you take it. He's like, no, you take it. And then like they're like, let's do it together, right? So I feel like although they might not be besties, they're like, figure out a way to work together and respect each other. And so in a way, I see them more like really good colleagues or coworkers.
For sure. Or at least like schoolmates. Like, we're from the same place. Like, we have the same background. We understand each other on that level. Like, let's work together. Like, we both believe in the same values that Hogwarts teaches. So that brings us together.
And I feel like Cedric is a good person. And I think overall Harry is too. And so I think that helps as well. Right.
For sure.
So like, I think if it was Draco who was in it, then I'd be like, F this
guy.
He'd
be dead.
That's
I don't
true.
know which either of them could be dead at this point. Like,
I think that's the thing is like, Draco, I don't think would make it through the first task.
No, he's such a daddy's boy. Like, he's too prim and proper for this.
Yeah. And that's what's scary about the tournament and why Harry is somehow in it is because people have died and they haven't done it in years because of the damage. And because this has been manipulated and Cedric and Harry Potter go together, seconds after they make it to the cemetery, Cedric is killed. So he doesn't make it. And I think like that really does weigh on Harry quite a bit.
For sure. I mean, how can it not? Like, you're like, I told him to take the cup. Like, and also he's 14. Like, what 14-year-old is going to process the death of this new friend in like a healthy and good way? Like,
well, I tell you, you know, one of the things though is, and so I was telling Claire before this, I've been watching Criminal Minds and I'm almost done with the show. And when you binge it, there are some things that stick out that are just like kind of like, annoying, right? And one of the things is, like, these people will go through, like, really just awful things, and, like, and then they'll be like, you should take some time off or whatever. And they're like, no, it's fine. It's part of the job. And it's like, no, take a day off. And I feel like Harry Potter is the same way. Like, he is 14 years old. He needs a therapist. Okay.
Yeah, he's a child.
Yeah.
Maybe we should treat him like a child for once.
Yeah, like, seriously, it's okay not to be okay. Like, I hate that. Like, everyone just take a day. I mean, I don't need to be
all of book 5 is of him processing this trauma.
Yeah.
We get an entire 800-page book of him just, like, not being okay for 800 pages. And, like, no one is stepping in and be like, hey, buddy, maybe we should talk to a professional. Like, do we have... St. Mungo's has to have a therapist somewhere, right?
Yeah, where are the wizard therapists at? Like...
Yeah.
It just seems like it would benefit him and maybe understand a little bit more of what's going on, and maybe his friends can go too. And speaking of his friends, that brings us to the core friendship. Harry, Ron, and Hermione.
The golden trio.
Well, maybe not in this book. Claire, what's up with the golden trio? What happens in this book?
We got some tension going on between Ron and Harry. They are having a tough go of it, this book.
Yes.
I mean, and it's like they're 14, so like we were going to hit bumps in the road eventually as friends. Like, we're growing and kind of dealing with that together. And like, Ron doesn't believe Harry when he says, I did not put my name in the goblet. And he doesn't like all the attention that Harry's getting because of it. And Harry's like, I don't like the attention either. Like, I don't want this.
That's the thing is, like, I think, like, at the surface level that Draco and people like Draco believe that Harry, like Snape does too, because he says it in, say, potions class or whatever, that they believe that Harry wants this attention, and he's never wanted it. He never had it, and then he comes to Hogwarts, and it's like, what? And it's been sort of like this underlying theme that we talked about in each episode, and we'll go into a little bit more, but like, this is the first time where it's like he has friends that don't believe him, right? Yeah. So I was going to read a little bit. Now, I have the Kindle book, so I don't know how the page numbers line up, but this is 115 of the Kindle version. And so basically, Harry's name gets called and he immediately has to go through everything, like, you know, whatever. And so basically after, you know, Ron's like, congratulations. And Harry says, what do you mean, congratulations? Well, no one else got across the age line, said Ron. Not even Fred and George. What did you use, the invisibility cloak? The invisibility cloak would have got me over that line, said Harry slowly. Oh, right, said Ron. I thought you might have told me if it was a cloak, because it would have covered both of us, wouldn't it? But you found another way, did you? Listen, said Harry, I didn't put my name in that goblet. Someone else must have done it. Ron raised his eyebrows. What would they do that for? I don't know, said Harry. He felt it like it sounded very melodramatic to say, to kill me? You're not wrong, Harry.
Listen, your gut is right, Harry.
Where's Oprah? Listen to the intuition. Listen to the hairs on the back of your neck. That's what I learned from watching Oprah. Okay, so Ron's eyebrows rose so high that they were in danger of disappearing into his hair. Quote, it's okay, you know you can tell me the truth, he said. If you don't want everyone else to know, fine, but I don't know why you're bothering to lie. You didn't get in trouble for it, did you? That friend of the fat lady's, that Violet, she already told us all Dumbledore's letting you enter. 1,000 galleons, however you pronounce it, prize money, and you don't have to do end of the year test either. I didn't put my name in the goblet, said Harry, starting to feel angry. Yeah, okay, said Ron, in exactly the same skeptical tone as Cedric. So I guess Cedric did maybe question it at first. I didn't remember that. That's okay, though. Only you said this morning you've done it last night, and no one would have seen you. I'm not stupid, you know. You're doing a really good impression of it, Harry snapped. Yeah, Ron said. There's no trace of a grin, forced or otherwise, on his face now. You want to get to that bed? Harry, I expect you'll need to be up early for a photo call or something. So, like, right out the gate, you can see that, like, Ron doesn't believe him, but at the same time, like, Hermione does believe him. So I think of the core friendship, like, Hermione and Harry are fine, right? Yeah. She doesn't believe he would put his name in there. And she does tell Harry, like, this is a great explanation. So this is on page 117. It starts on 116. Oh, Harry, isn't it obvious? Hermione said despairingly. He's jealous, i.e. envious, but that's okay. Jealous, Harry said incredulously. Jealous of what? He wants to make a prat of himself in front of the whole school, does he? Look, said Hermione patiently. It's always you who gets all the attention. You know it is. I know it's not your fault, she added quickly, seeing Harry open his mouth furiously. I know you don't ask for it, but Ron's got all those brothers to compete against at home. And you're his best friend, and you're really famous. He's always shunted one side whenever people see you, and he puts up with it, and he never mentions it. But I suppose this is just one time too many. Right? And then Harry goes on, and he's still kind of upset because he's like, well, Ron can switch with me anytime. But I feel like Hermione is like the glue this book.
For sure. Yeah, well, she's just the emotional intelligence between these two because they're 14-year-old boys and they're miserable for like half this book because they just refuse to talk to each other and they refuse to cave first. It's like, okay, come on. Like, we're past the point where this is really a problem. And like Ron is kind of like realizing, oh shit, this is kind of dangerous. My friend is in danger and I should believe him, but he won't suck up his pride and say, I'm sorry. So
yeah. And then there's like all these other events that add to it. Right. So like, there's an article written by Rita Skeeter that kind of throws him into the limelight. He doesn't tell Ron about Sirius. And so Ron comes down to check on, Harry, but he's talking to Sirius, but he doesn't tell him about it. So there's all this fuel coming out. And so it isn't until after the first task, after Harry successfully beats this dragon, does Ron be like, oh God, you didn't do that.
You didn't sign up for this. Oh yeah, that was pretty clear now, huh?
Yeah. And I think what's really interesting, so there are two parts that I think fit well with this. One is Harry's sort of view on what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that it's hard for him to have friends, even Hermione, during the tournament because the only people that understand are Crumb, Fleur, and Cedric, right? So they don't fully understand what he's going through, what it feels like to be like, I don't know what's going to happen. Or to find out that it's going to be dragon. How the hell do I get around a dragon and steal an egg? Like, how do I do that?
Right. But, like he literally doesn't have the magical skills to do that yet. That's why the age limit was so high because they had the training to potentially survive. He's 14.
Yeah. It's like, hello.
Me at 14, I would have curled up in a ball and cried if my name was in the Goblet of Fire.
Yeah. Okay, so this is from page 140. Quote, Harry felt oddly separate from everyone around him, whether they were wishing him good luck or hissing, well, have a box of tissues ready, Potter, as he passed. It was a state of nervousness so advanced that he wondered whether he mightn't just lose his head when they tried to lead him out to his dragon and start trying to curse everyone in sight. Time was behaving in a more peculiar fashion than ever, rushing past in great dollops so that the one moment he seemed to be sitting down in his first lesson, History of Magic, and the next walking into lunch, and then where had the morning gone? The last of the dragon-free hours. Professor McGonagall was hurrying over to him in the Great Hall. Lots of people were watching. Potter, the champions have to come down to the grounds now. You have to get ready for your first task. So it's like, he doesn't know where time's going. He feels completely alone. He's scared out of his mind. Like, he's nervous. And so it's like, he's 14. He shouldn't be doing this, right? It's like, like, come on. Like, why are we doing this?
It's always him. It always is.
Yeah, like, that's the thing is, like, given, like, Ron's concerns, it's like, but would you want to do that? Or do you just want the positive stuff that comes along with it? Because Harry has to do all, like, he is threatened to be killed, like, every second of his life, right? Like, how do you even manage that, right? So when he does get past the dragon, and this is on page 145, Ron says, Harry, he said very seriously, whoever put your name in the goblet, I reckon they're trying to do you in. And that's basically like any of the weeks beforehand don't matter anymore.
Reset.
reset. And like one of the things that I think is then to have his support the rest of the tournament is positive for him. But that was like their first real huge conflict that I think Hermione explains well. Like, it's like he's already dealt with this, but maybe this was like the last straw, or like this is he no longer knows how to handle it. And like Harry and Hermione are great, right? Like she's looking up charms and spells. She's practicing stuff with them. She's doing whatever she can to help them. The only other thing that comes up that becomes a problem is that Hermione goes to the dance with Victor Crumb. And Ron is super jealous. That is correct in this instance. And I mean, also probably envious because Victor Crumb is the greatest seeker in the world for Quidditch. And he gets mad at Hermione, and it's because he likes her. So we're starting to get those like catching feelings.
In the movies, Victor Crumb is much hotter than he is in the books.
Woo!
I'm in love with movie Victor Crumb. I was just picturing movie Victor.
Yeah, that's all I do. That's once I see the movie. Yeah, no, whenever I see a movie, then like that's it for imagination. I imagine the movies, but yeah, that's what we'll talk about in the Alysa Watches TV episode of this, because he's very attractive. Good casting. Excellent casting.
I once looked him up on IMDb. He hasn't done anything since, really. And I'm like, that's sad for him. But
yeah, he's probably fine. But I think what's interesting is like Ron doesn't want Hermione to be with Crumb. But he didn't ask her. She even says, well, if you wanted to go to the dance with me, you should have asked me first, right? You know, so like good on her for not settling for that nonsense. But then also Ron doesn't want to be like called out for the fact that maybe he has feelings for Hermione. So he goes into this like diatribe about like how Hermione is going to try to help Crumb, and like she's like
going to reveal secrets and all that. Like,
and that Crumb is just there so that he can find out about the tournament. And she's like, all she's done is help Harry. And, you know, to be perfectly honest, Ron wasn't present for any of it because he was mad. And so he doesn't know what Hermione's done and not done. And so it's kind of, I hate that part because it's like, you're mad because you like her and you didn't do anything.
And we haven't processed it enough to do anything about it. We just know it exists a little in our head. Yeah. So,
especially when she comes down and uses that potion to give her hair not so like bushy, I think is
another thing that gave me a curly hair complex as a child was that scene. I was like, oh, curly hair is not good enough. Okay, fine. I'll just flat iron it to death for 3 years in middle school.
Well, that's the thing is my hair is straight except for the back and it's curly. So it's like, I can't flat iron it. I'm not a stylist. My stylist makes it look like great, but she doesn't live with me.
No, we don't have that luxury in life. And you don't have a magical potion to put on your back of your hair only.
No, I'm not Kim Kardashian. Just get off your ass and work, okay? If I had your money and
your nannies and your cook and everything.
Yeah. Who would have thought Kim Kardashian would have come up in a Harry Potter episode, but here we are.
It's my presence. Trashy reality TV is me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Clara. I've missed you.
Missed you too.
So this is one of the reasons why I love Goblet of Fire, because it's not that I want to see conflict per se. Like, I don't want necessarily them to be fighting, but it is inherently natural to do so, right? Yeah. So, like, I don't think enough times that we have that conflict. And I think that the feelings that Ron has towards Harry are more common than what we allow to discuss in society. I mean, first off, we call envy jealousy, and we're wrong, right? And so jealousy is when, like, if, you know, Harry started spending time with Cedric instead of Ron, right? That he's jealous, but he isn't. It's not impacting the relationship. He just wishes he had what Harry had. Fame, attention, the champion, etc. And again, I think what Hermione's explanation of having all those brothers and competing and being the youngest of the boys, he only gets hand-me-downs. And he does say several times in this one, like, I just wish I wasn't poor. And he has to wear those just terrible robes. Like, just... let him
he
go.
Tried to Project Runway that, and it didn't work for him, and it was not good.
I was like, there's got to be something better. Like, or is there like loans in Wizard World? Like,
yeah, can we rent it? Like a rent-a-tux? Can we rent some dress robes?
Like, just let Ron have one day when he doesn't have a hand-me-down, which I know is I know our parents do whatever they can for us. I understand that, and it's just like it's just something that eats up at Ron, and I like Ron, and I don't. I just want him to have, like, a day where he feels like he's in the sunshine, right? Like, the sun is shining on him.
Well, that's what he wanted in the Mirror of Erised, right? Like, that was the one thing he wanted, was to be recognized for his achievements and to, like, stand apart from his family. And, like, that's his one deepest desire. And we're seeing it kind of come out with ugly horns in this book.
Yeah, and we're going to see a little bit more of it later, too. So get ready for the cringe/emo phases of angst. Oh my God. But yeah, like, that's why I like it. It's like, I want to see, like, what friends actually experience. And okay, yeah, we're not wizards and witches, and there isn't Voldemort, but there kind of is, Like, so some of it is fantasy, but a lot of it is rooted, as you mentioned at the beginning, in our world. So this is what friends go through. But Ron needs to knock it off, because what Harry needs right now is his unconditional support from Ron and Hermione, because it is very much like Harry Potter's Detroit in this. It's everybody versus Detroit. It's everybody versus Harry, right? Like,
yeah.
Just think about when his name is called, it's an uproar, right? Like, I mean, they have buttons made that say Potter stinks. Like, the idea is that for the Olympics, you're supposed to support your country, and then it's about countries coming together and being peaceful. And it's like right out the gate, they see it as like an affront to Cedric's opportunity to be champion, which I'm guessing Hufflepuffs don't get a lot of chance to do that.
No, we don't. And that's okay. That's not usually our scene, Like, we're just kind of, we're in the background hanging out, having a good time. We create good vibes for everybody else. But
yeah, so it's like the
Cedric
one time
was our shot.
I feel like this is like the one book where Hufflepuffs sometimes are just slightly, like, generally like, hey, it's Cedric's time. Like, meanest they can be. Hey, now.
Yeah. And I feel like Hufflepuffs, we're like the least developed of all the houses. I feel like we're kind of just like, oh yeah, they're good people. They're loyal. Like, that's all we got. Like, we don't really have any personality. Yeah.
We need more of a deep dive into Hufflepuff
Flesh
and
it out
Ravenclaw.
a little bit.
Let's get a little bit more. But yeah, so, Hufflepuffs are like, I mean, they're nowhere near Slytherin, right? Draco is still Harry's main enemy. I mean, besides Voldemort. So his peer enemy, his frenemy, if you will. So yeah, they still don't like each other. And the Slytherins are really mean about Harry getting into the tournament, right? Like, they don't believe him. They harass him. But there is this moment that I think is interesting, and this is before Harry gets in the tournament. And that is Draco's being Draco. And then Mad-Eye Moody, like Barty Crouch as Mad-Eye Moody, doesn't he, like, turn Draco into, like, a ferret or something?
He does, which is interesting because we don't know at that point it's not Moody. Barty Crouch Jr. is a Death Eater. Draco's father's a Death Eater. Like, he is turning his, like, friend's son into a ferret, like, for the ruse of it, which is really, like, he committed to the bit. He said,
that is
ferret child.
Such an excellent point. I did not even think of that. Like,
I just thought about it. I was like, what?
So Barty Crouch, they got to answer to what's his face? Lucius.
Voldemort? Lucius, yeah.
Yeah. Malfoy's dad. Oh my God, that's so funny. He's just like, well, if you're gonna commit, like, you got to go all in. Like,
well, yeah, it's like, what would Aleister Moody do? Aleister Moody would not stand for a bully of a boy he knows whose dad was a Death Eater. So, like, he had to play the role.
So he has to do it. Claire, do you watch Euphoria?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. I'll have to cut this out, but
Okay.
the last 2 episodes of season 2 is this like play where everyone goes in hard. They're all like the Barty Crouches being Mad-Eye Moody, and it's just like live for it.
Wow.
It's so good. So we got our usual Draco hates everyone, and just overall Slytherins are sort of like the worst. But then there's like this moment where like, you know, Hermione and Ron and Harry are like, you ferret. And they even like there's even some threats of like Mad-Eye Moody again that kind of scare.
Yeah, Hermione, like he was getting on Hermione and calling her mudblood and like being mean to her, and Hermione just went, "Oh, hello, Professor Moody," and Draco just like
no,
cringed. Oh my gosh!
Don't turn me into another ferret. I'm surprised Dumbledore didn't get fired for that. Like like Lucius is like, I'm gonna be on Hogwarts property to be like how my son was turned into a ferret. I actually don't remember what happened there.
Well,
Maybe
he's scared of Moody. That's why, because Moody would have put Lucius away. So Lucius is like, I can't cross Alistair.
That's right. He's the dog, the bounty hunter. That's right. Mm-hmm. Also, at a certain point, you wonder if Draco doesn't tell his dad some things because he kind of, you know, he's a daddy's boy, but also at the same time, his dad
my father can't think I'm weak.
Yeah, like his dad is really critical, which I think starts to turn, from what I remember, starts to turn Draco into a sympathetic character a little bit later on in the series. But I'll have more thoughts about that after, because like seriously, I've reread the first 4 books so many times, and then you know it gets real serious, and then I guess I just haven't done it.
Geeks out of that one.
But I also think, like, the Harry versus everybody is not helped by Rita Skeeter and her little gossip rag. And so one of the things is, like, she obviously fuels the fire where she writes these terrible stories about Harry Potter that everyone believes, and so then they treat him badly. And these could have been people who were friendly to him before, which I think that's why it's important to talk about, is Slytherin's always gonna hate Harry, right? Draco's always gonna hate Harry. But the other houses seem to be fine with him and even supportive and friendly in classes until something happens like this. And so the stories about him and the made-up stories about Hermione really change everyone's perception, including, she's my favorite character, but I'm like, Molly Weasley.
I was just gonna say that. Molly Weasley got. Oh no.
She was like looking at Hermione cross-eyed like, girl.
What are you doing?
She was like, you don't deserve Harry. And it's like, it was made up. Like, it's funny because Molly Weasley will go all in on Harry, especially against Cedric Diggory's dad, and who believed the articles. And she's like, it's Rita Skeeter. You should know what she does. You work for the ministry. And then like seconds later, she's like, oh, hi, Hermione.
Oh, it's you. Oh, hello.
So funny. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, Molly.
So another common theme, like this, like Harry against everybody. We'll see how that changes, because like at this point I like don't want to say, because I'm like, maybe even what I read before, my perception of it will change because of the world and how much time has gone by.
I think 5 is worse in terms of Harry versus everyone, because he's like Voldemort's back and no one believes him. And
also he's angsty. And although I don't know that it's described in the book, the movie really helps, like with he grows his hair, so they all have like the long hair, and it's like very emo guys, like
yes.
It's terrible. But I do say that most of the people, like Ron after task number 1, are sort of on board with Harry. Like Cedric has been helped in task 1. Cedric helps Harry in task 2. They all witness the dragons, and Harry does really well. But like he wouldn't have chosen to do this, you know. So I think it lightens up a bit. But like you said, with Voldemort coming back, what is that going to look like? It's going to be a lot more complicated, because now it's starting to get more, for lack of a better word, political,
And I think Cedric did a lot of work behind the scenes too. Like that was mentioned, like Cedric talked to some of the Hufflepuffs to kind of lay off. So like once the Hufflepuffs saw like Cedric's okay with Harry, like everybody else kind of fell in line. Like, okay, they're not at each other's throats. So like, why are we hating on Harry if Cedric's okay with him?
And I also think like Cedric specifically, he might have said things and he did talk to people, but I also think they follow his lead. Action, right? Yeah. Like, you know, people can be influenced by just seeing kindness, you know, like, well, if he doesn't have a problem with them, why do I? You know?
Exactly.
But I would say that as it's about to be March Madness, some fans would disagree with that statement.
Yeah.
So I think the last sort of topics are what sort of takes us into the next books, right? Like, so I think we're going to see some more conflicts among the core friendship. Draco's not going to change. I think we're going to learn more about some of other people that Harry becomes friends with, especially in Order of the Phoenix. But I think what's really important in this book is what I guess we could call family connections. But, you know, I don't know that. I know that Harry's like, okay, Sirius is like my godfather, but, you know, Sirius is still on the run. He's still Padfoot / Snuffles or Sniffles or whatever their nickname for him is. And so really in this book, I see Sirius as being more of like a protector and advisor. So the only way they're communicating is through like messages sent from owls or how they talk in the
fireplace heads.
Fireplace heads.
Sure.
Like, I was like, was this author high when she came up with that one? Because the rest of it I'm on board with, but I'm like, fireplace.
One's a bridge too far.
I'm like, but how does it happen? Like, you know, flu powder, you know, you drop it down, or, you know, the port key, you touch it, you know. I don't know how it works. But anyway, so like, that's really how Sirius operates. But I think when Harry feels alone, that reaching out to Sirius makes him feel better, and that sometimes he doesn't want to bother him because he doesn't want to get Sirius caught, and so he has to then be encouraged by other people to contact him, including Sirius. But I think what we see more of in this book, and will continue to do so, like, I feel like it's already started, but it's the Weasleys. Like I said, Molly Weasley is one of my favorite characters, and I just love that she just kind of goes all in on Harry, you know, like, she's like, she's mad at Hermione because of that article in the Daily whatever. But like, she is the one sending a letter to the Dursleys to be like, can he come to the Quidditch Cup? And they have their families come to the tournament. And Harry's like, did the Dursleys come?
Did they come for the final test? Did they whip them out to Hogwarts? They came willingly?
Are they going to watch me die?
That might be their field day, but...
that might be the one time they came. They were like, oh, he might die. Okay.
Imminent peril? Okay, we'll come watch.
But not at our hands? Okay.
But like, work? Great.
But I love when he opens the door and, like, everyone's family's there, and then it's, like, I think it's Molly and Bill, like, one of the oldest sons. And so they show up to be the family for him, and you can see the older Weasleys, Bill and Charlie, are more involved and have an interest in what's going on because they are connected to the tournament in some way. And you just feel like Harry does have a family. He does have people, even if he wouldn't call them family, he has these, you know, family friends, or like he has like these
There's
connections.
People in his corner.
Yes. And like Mrs. Weasley, I feel like I would never doubt that. Like her and Dumbledore, I would never doubt. And Sirius, I mean, at this point, he's still new. And that's all I'm going to say. I don't want to spoil book 5, but Claire.
Book 5 was traumatizing for me. We'll just say that.
Okay. Well, I think people can read between the lines. Here's the thing. You're not listening to the Harry Potter episodes unless you've read Harry Potter, is what I'm thinking.
And these books are how many years old now? Like, we're past the point of expiration.
Spoilers. It's fine. Don't worry. Like, we're going to have to spoil. It's just I mean, we did say Cedric
spoiled
died.
it for me. So
that's unacceptable. Was it your mom? Sarah.
No. It was David Gilbert. I'll name names. It was David Gilbert. And I was reading the books for the first time. He said, oh yeah, Sirius Black. And I was like, what? And then I didn't believe him. And then I got to that point and I was like, that bastard.
David Gilbert.
Oh no.
That is not being a good friend. I'll just tell you that right now. That's a bad friend. Bad friend. Although I one time had a student who wouldn't pay attention to my class and she was reading The Hunger Games. And I did say, if you don't put it away, I'm going to tell you what happens. I was mainly joking because, like, I feel very strongly about spoilers. But she put it away. I was like, thank you.
Thank you.
That class, we were doing something like in groups. So it's like, look.
Don't be a dick to your group mates.
Exactly. Oh, Claire, I've missed you. Do you want to come to class with me tomorrow? Oh, it'd be so much fun.
I'll whip them into shape. Mine are terrified of me because of the group. I threaten them with group stuff. I'm like, I failed someone in my small group comm class in college. I have no problem failing you in this. If you're a dick to your group mates, I don't care any other time. You're not going to be a bad group member. I will not stand for it.
Yeah, that's kind of like, it's fine you screw up your own stuff, but like purposely screwing up other people's stuff, I don't like that. It's very uncool. Yeah. Which is why groups and connections are important if you think about it. So, like I said, for lack of a better word, things are trying to get more political. It's definitely like us versus them. It's like Voldemort and then like Dumbledore essentially or non-Voldemort folks. And so if he's coming back, then you're starting to see more things happening that sort of keep people apart, right? It's us against them. And you have to work with other people to overcome evil. Hello. So I think like Dumbledore's connections are really critical in this. Like, I think it's really interesting. Like he's still in that mentorship role with Harry, where they do the pensive together. And so Harry learns about Neville Longbottom's parents. Like Neville lives with his grandma, and we haven't heard anything about his parents. I think people thought they were dead, but through, fighting Death Eaters and Voldemort, they've gone insane, I believe is what's happened. Yeah. And Harry even says, like, I didn't even think to ask what happened to his parents. It's like... Yeah.
Well, there was another moment with Neville, too. Like, I feel like Neville was the friend that got left out because Moody said to Harry, I gave Neville the book. I gave the Longbottom boy the book that had the answer to the second challenge, and you never asked him. Yeah. You didn't think to ask him. Why didn't you ask him? So I feel like Neville was the forgotten friend of this book again.
Absolutely. But at the same time, Barty Crouch as Mad-Eye Moody... Have you seen anything? Have you been observing? You give the book to like
Hermione.
So like that's just like he doesn't know what's up. But I think you're exactly right. Like Neville gets sort of the short end of the stick all the time, and they should be paying attention to him. And I think that becomes even more clear as, in the next book, for example. But one of the parts that I really did enjoy in the reread was like, so when he learns about the Longbottoms, Dumbledore tells Harry, this is not to be shared with everyone. It's Neville's business and right to be able to share it. And I think that's a really important point, that just because we know something doesn't mean it's our information to share. It's very much like Claire knows communication privacy management theory.
My favorite theory.
By Sandra Petronio. Shout out. It's a great theory. I know you're like, ooh, theory's boring. Theory explains the world around us. And it's really this idea of like we're owners of our information, and even if I learn that information, I become a co-owner, I still don't think it's my business to share it.
There's still rules.
There's still rules, exactly. And what I absolutely appreciate, because Harry is 13, 14 years old, I would absolutely believe that he would go tell Hermione and Ron, and he doesn't. And I was like, yes. And because it is very much Neville's business. Or, I mean, obviously not with this author would have covered it, but like it's someone's business to share their sexual orientation, to share their past history, to share their experiences. It's not up to other people to do it. Like it's our information. And I thought that was a really important point, and a really good, perhaps foundational lesson that Dumbledore was imparting on Harry at that time. And
I think there's a good parallel there too between Harry and Neville. Harry's like, I didn't get to control my narrative with my parents. I didn't get to like do that in my own time. So Neville, I owe Neville that because I didn't get that. So that's what I would have wanted. So Neville should have that.
Absolutely. That's such an excellent point. And I think that goes to show like there's different ways to build relationships, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can build relationships through bonding, protecting information. There's all sorts of ways to do it. And I think Dumbledore definitely does that. He protects those that are on the outs. Harry, Hagrid, Sirius, Neville. Like, he takes a risk out on, like, he takes the risk and goes out on faith for a lot of these people, but then they're also loyal to him. So now that Voldemort is back, right? So they go through the maze. Cedric and Harry make it there. And they use the blood, the bone of, like, what's his face? Voldemort's dad. And someone's skin or something.
It's Wormtail's hand. And, like...
just nasty stuff. Like, let's mix it together to bring this dickwad back.
He said, criminal minds this graveyard. We're doing it.
Yeah, like, I mean, I've been watching Criminal Minds. I was like, I've already seen this episode.
Right? I'm watching Bones, so I'm like, oh, a gross skeleton, normal thing.
Cool.
Right? Yeah. Great. Another one.
Yeah, awesome. That was season 7, episode 4. I don't know. I'm just making up stuff. But I think, like... he goes there, he does all that, he sees the Death Eaters, Lucius, I always want to say his name 74 different ways. It's just like my name. Is it Alysa? Is it Alyssa? Someone called me Alysa the other day, and I was like, that is brand new information. So I feel like Alysa and Lucius are very close. Like, you could say it multiple ways. So I feel your pain.
Okay.
But, like, so Harry sees all this, he comes back, and Voldemort, like you said, he knows there's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne, a little Batman reference, although it's not the right one. But it's like he immediately puts things in motion, right? And I forgot to mention Snape, too. I feel like that's the support I don't quite understand yet. And I'm hoping this reread helps me understand Dumbledore's support for Snape. But like,
I will say I am not a Snape apologist personally. I don't like him even upon the reflection as an adult. I'm like, no, you can form your own conclusions as you reread, but I am not in Camp Snape. No, thank you.
Okay, maybe we'll have to come back and do a bonus clip on Snape after I've read all the books. And we'll talk about what we think about him. But Voldemort, once he's back, Dumbledore puts everything in motion. He's not Snape doing this, McGonagall doing this, the nurse going this way. And the thing is, he builds, maintains, keeps, nurtures his connections and his relationships. So when things go bad and the evil comes back, they have a plan and they are organized. And I think that leads us into book 5. And so I think that Dumbledore has lifelong relationships that he continues to grow with his students, specifically the folks I mentioned. And I think that's what's going to help us move forward into hopefully being able to conquer Lord Voldemort. Weirdo.
That freak.
I mean, he's like in the movie, because that's what I'm envisioning. It's like this little snake baby or something. It's like, what are you even? You're not even like a full. And then all of a sudden, it's like Ralph Fiennes without a nose, and I'm like, what is happening? Oh my gosh. So we'll talk more about the movie.
Oh, for sure. I'm down for it. And Alysa watches TV/movie.
Yes. So we will do that. And so we'll have that bonus video coming out. So overall, what do you think about this book, though? I know 3 and 5 are your favorite. Where do you rank it in the 7, though?
Ooh, okay. So as a kid, I didn't say this at the beginning, and I should have. This book was one that I was like, I just want them to get to Hogwarts already, because I was not a sports kid. I didn't care about sports as a child. I was like, this book is stupid.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't get it. And like, I also didn't, like, as an adult who studies like intercultural communication, sometimes I'm like, oh wow, world expansion. That's really cool to learn about other cultures. As a kid, I did not appreciate that at all.
You're like, come on, little Claire.
Now, I mean, it's not in my top 3, I don't think, but it definitely isn't like, I don't know. Cause like, do you include 1 and 7 when you rank them for yourself? Or cause I don't, because they're like, it's the beginning and the end. I kind of can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've only read 7 once, and that was the time that I had to pull the Gatorade and granola bar out of my backpack on the day
You
that
had to
it came
revive
out.
yourself.
I needed Hermione's never-ending bag from the movie where I could pull out all the snacks. So I'm not comfortable fully evaluating and judging until I've had a chance to reread 7, because obviously book 1 is the one I've read the most, right? You have to read 1 to get to 2 and to 3. Yeah. And I definitely think the first 2 are building the world and are fixated essentially on the age of the target audience, which totally makes sense. That's not a slight against it.
No.
I think book 3 is where it starts to get interesting. And for me, who is someone who loves TV and movies, when I read this, all I could think was like, this will be a great movie. I don't think they fully captured it as a great movie. And we'll talk about that in our episode of Alysa Watches TV. But it's definitely the most movie-like, given, like, I do think the Quidditch World Cup scene is really cool. I just think it's way too short. I was
the opposite. I was like, get me to Hogwarts already. I don't care about the sports. Me as a child. Now I'm like, this is fun.
But there's like 10 chapters in the book, but like the scene is like 5 minutes in the movie. So,
that's true,
I would say that right now, I'd probably put Order of the Phoenix 1, probably Prisoner of Azkaban 2, and then I'd probably put Goblet of Fire. But I do, I know it's a hot take. I like this movie, or excuse me, this book. I like this book more than most people do. I think that it is an interesting way to get to the more serious stuff that we'll see in book 5 and beyond. The only thing is, like we mentioned before, just do a port key somewhere else, bro.
Yeah.
You don't have to drink polyjuice for an entire academic year so Barty Crouch can like manipulate things. But that's just, just picking at things.
It's fine. You know what? Plot holes. It's okay. We'll let them have it.
We'll let them have it. But Claire, this is so much fun. Like, it's been so long, and maybe this was more for us than everyone else. So hopefully, if you're listening, it was okay for you. And if you liked it, well, Claire and I were talking about her coming back to do some book club episodes, because as you know, I'll make her read a book from my childhood, and then she makes me read a book from hers. Her books are harder than mine. I just like to put it out there. It's struggle bus sometimes.
I might go easy on you this time. It'll be okay.
Thank you. Well, and then my next pick will be not Anna Green Gables, which we haven't done, but it will be the other book that basically imprinted on me when I was a kid in terms of friendship. It's a Judy Blume. And it's going to be amazing.
Okay. I'm excited.
Yeah, everyone get excited about Judy Blume.
I'm going to put a pin in that one. Come back to it.
So tell us what you think about the Goblet of Fire. Does it live up to the other books? Should we have just got to Hogwarts and not even done any of the sports stuff? Do you think that there was not enough sports stuff? Maybe we didn't get enough Cedric Diggory. Maybe you just have thoughts about Polyjuice and Barty Crouch as Mad-Eye Moody. Or turning Draco into a ferret. I mean, there's lots of things we discussed. We would like to hear what you think. And get ready for Order of the Phoenix, because the angst, and I need to do like a bang hair flip here. The emo is coming.
Get your flat irons out, y'all. Like
black nail polish. Let's go. And some Linkin Park or whatever.
Hit up Hot Topic. We got Order of the Phoenix coming.
Oh, I love angsty phases. Okay, so if you do have ideas or thoughts about what Claire and I have discussed, feel free to find me on social media at Friends with Alysa on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and it's Friends W Alysa on Twitter. It's also Friends with Alysa on the web and Gmail. So until next time, friends, think about if someone put your name in the Goblet of Fire, would your friends believe that you didn't? Because without our friends, who would we be? Thanks for listening listening to Best Forevers. If you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and of course, share with a friend. Please be sure to follow Best Forevers on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Best Forevers Pod, and I'm at Dr. Alysa Lucas on Twitter. You can always find the podcast webpage for more information at bestforeverspod.com, and share your stories of friendship by emailing me at bestforeverspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the movement to love on our friends more, check out the podcast on patreon.com/bestforeverspod. Now, friends, check out this recommended podcast that you must get in your ear holes immediately.
Hey y'all, this is Heidi Bennett of the Vibrant Visionaries podcast. Come on over and hang out with us. I talk with tons of indie filmmakers, artists, musicians, comedians. We have casual conversations and talk about creative process and the inner workings of creating all sorts of cool indie stuff. Lots of horror films, all sorts of kind of weird, fringy stuff too, but it's very positive and super fun. You can find us at vibrantvisionaries.com. Come give us a whirl. Ciao!